Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Green. Today, we're going to be doing another Bible study. It's going to be Genesis chapter 41. If you'd like me to come speak at your church or you have any questions, you can email me at godsohman@gmail.com. Genesis 41, starting in verse 1. And it came to pass at the end of the 2 full years, remember 2 full years, that Pharaoh dreamed it, and behold, he stood by a river. And behold, there came out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in the meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after him out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood up by the other canal that brings to the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed king did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat king. So Pharaoh woke. And you can see he dreamt a dream of a couple of healthy cows and a couple of very unhealthy cows. And the unhealthy cows ate the healthy cows. And he slept and dreamt a second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up out of one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So he had 7 really nice looking ears of corn, and some 7 bad ones. And the word corn talks about all different kind of grains, so it could have been corn, or wheat, or barley, or anything like that. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he set out and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men therefore. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them to Pharaoh. And he spoke to the chief butler to the Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. And Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me to ward of the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamt a dream one night, and I and he, we dreamt each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And when we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams, each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored into mine office, and him he hung. And Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and he changed his raiment, and he came into Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamt a dream, and there is no one that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee, that thou shalt understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. And behold, there came up out the river 7 kings, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in the meadow. And behold, 7 other kings came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and ill-favored king did eat up the first 7 fat king. You can see this picture here. There was a very sickly-looking cow ate up the other nice-looking cows. But when they had eaten them up, they could not be known that they had eaten them, because they were still ill-favored, as the beginning. So I woke. And then I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered thin, and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh was one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. So this is a really cool picture I thought of a man talking to a Pharaoh, and they say that it's Joseph. I don't know what they look like, but it's a really cool looking picture. The 7 good kings are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored king that came up out of them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. And this is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh, what God is about to show unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land of reason the famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because this thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, to take up 1/5 of the land of Egypt during the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hands of Pharaoh. And let them keep food in the cities. All that food shall be in store for the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, till the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such one as this, a man of whom the Spirit of God is? And the Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as God has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according to all thy words shall my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. So Pharaoh's pretty much saying, Joseph, you're a really smart man, you're a God-fearing man, I really like you. I'm going to make you my second in command, or my vice pharaoh, and nobody in this whole entire land is going to be over you except for me. And people say all the time, well, there's no biblical proof of this happening. Well, there's actually a statue base of the Pharaoh Djoser with the name Imhotep, which basically means first after the king among many titles. And Pharaoh Djoser, is really interesting. He's a vice pharaoh. His name is Joseph, and his name is Djoser. And the name Imhotep, which means he is first after the king, which means that the king is the only person above him. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And the significance of giving him his ring is what they used to do is they used to actually heat up wax, and they'd use this ring and they stamp it in the wax to say this is the king's seal or the pharaoh's seal, and nobody else could have that seal but the pharaoh. And so by the pharaoh giving this to Joseph, he's pretty much saying, you're going to be the one that speaks for me. Everybody's going to follow what you say. You have my authority as the pharaoh to do all these things. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. So Joseph now went from being a slave to being in prison. Now he's the vice pharaoh. He's second in command of all of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift his hand or foot in all the lands of Egypt. For promotion cometh neither from the east, or from the west, nor from the south, but God is a judge, and he putteth down one and seateth another. So in Psalm 75 it says that God's the one that's going to basically promote kings and demote kings, and nobody in the world is above God, and God's the one that's in control. Matthew 23 it says, But he that was greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Joseph was humble the whole entire book when you're talking about Joseph. He was humble, he did his part, he did what he had to do, and God blessed him for that. Proverbs 25 says, Put not forth thy in the presence of the king, and stand not in the place of the great men. For better is it that he that stand unto thee come up hither, that thou shouldest be put lower in the presence of the prince whom thou eyes have seen. Back to Genesis 41, verse 45. And Pharaoh called Joseph a huge name, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. And he gave him to wife Enasath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. And Joseph went all over the land of Egypt. And this is actually some hieroglyphics here. At the top you can see the name, this huge name, which you know was Joseph. And you can see that there's, all these different symbols. And this second one is the actual name of Imhotep. And you can see what that looks like. And Imhotep's inscription, as if you see them on rocks and monuments, has a little candle, a little like a falcon, and a little blade-looking thing. and sometimes it's shortened to Ptah, which is the very, very bottom. And you can see right here on this inscription, there's a little flame thing, a little falcon, and a little blade-looking thing on this monument. And this is actually the statue of the Joseph. And they say that this person, this Imhotep, is the father of medicine, and he's the one that made pyramids and things like that. And some people believe that these pyramids were actually made originally to store the grain, because they ran out of room in the town. They put them all over the town, so they started building pyramids for that. And Egyptian chronologically is after exaggerated due to overlapping regions, simultaneous regions, and exaggerated regions. And you can look on here on this map. The traditional chronology would say, this person did 1 to 2 years, this person did 3 to 6 years, this person did 7 to 10 years, and it would be back to back. But that's not how Egyptians are. If you look at the bottom, you can see that 1 and 2 overlap 3 and 6, and 3 and 6 overlap 1 and 2 and 11 and 12. And 7 through 10 and 13 through 17 are both reigning, just in different locations. And you can see the 7 and 10 and 13 and 17. We have 7 and 10 on the top, and then right before it is 11 through 12. And then you can see 18 through 20 is overlapping 18 through 20, 25, 21, 26, 30. So they're actually overlapping many times because you have different people in different areas, or you have a pharaoh in charge, and he puts his son in charge as well, but he still reigns as well. So it's often exaggerated because a lot of times they are serving the same time, but they're overlapping. There's actually a really good Egyptian kings list, and it shows you how exaggerated they are in the Evolution Handbook. The Saxons in England had genealogy going back to Adam. The Danes and Norwegian king list go back to Noah, and you can read that in Bill Cooper's book After the Flood. And this is actually a boulder that has the story of Imhotep, which is the name of Joseph, in Egypt. And here's that thing again. It's the statue based on the Pharaoh de Djoser, with the name Imhotep, first after the king among his many titles. And this right here is Imhotep, and it's basically during the third dynasty. And this is that Imhotep was the aide of Pharaoh Djoser, who was an architect and a physician. He later became the deity of wisdom and medicine, and he's the one that actually started the pyramid building tradition. There's actually a book here by Jameson Hurry called Imhotep, the Egyptian Father of Medicine, and it's proven by historical archives. There's even games about Imhotep. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 perennial years, the earth brought forth handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up all the food in the cities, and the foods of the field, which were round about every city, laid them up he the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sands of the sea very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And they found all over Egypt, they found these little holes. There's these holes all over the town. And you can actually see right here, there's the area of the pits when they reconstructed the step pyramid complex. And these things are massive. They're gigantic holes that they believe that this is where they actually stored all the corn. And you can see how massive they are. There's a person standing right there. And there was actually steps going down so they can, keep going down to get more and more grain and carry it back up. It's actually it's a fantastic idea to store all of your grain inside your city. That way, if there's famine, people want to get to it. They have to come through your city to actually get it. And unto Joseph born 2 sons before the years of famine came, with Asana, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God said, He has made me forget my toil and all of my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has caused me to be fruitful and of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteous that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dearth began to come, according to Joseph had said. And the dearth was all the lands, but in the lands of Egypt there was bread. So this is saying that there was famine all over Egypt, all over the neighboring cities. And the only place you could find food was in Egypt. And when all the lands of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, and what he say to you to do, do. And the famines were all over the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses, and sold unto all the Egyptians. And the famines waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all the countries came to Egypt to Joseph to buy for corn, because the famine was so sore in all the lands. So all the neighboring regions had this famine, and the only place that you could get this corn was in Egypt through Joseph. Well, again, I appreciate you guys watching my Bible study video. If you'd like me to come to your church and speak, or if you have any questions, please email me at godsohman@gmail.com. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you so very much for watching my videos, and I'll make another one soon.